And so, it continues. Hello there, welcome back to Max's Writing Advice Q&A. I have less room here because my microphone is like right here. My cup is right here. My two monitors are right there and the camera is right there. That's your point of view in this particular parallel of reality. Welcome back. If you're unfamiliar with my videos, I'm gonna tell you how things are gonna go. Every week, viewers just like you leave questions in the comments down below. I always try to give you a quick answer. I make it a point to reply to every question that I get, and then I toss them into a pile of questions. Every video, I take 3 of those questions and I answer them in full focus in one of these videos. We have 3 questions today. Some of viewers just like you. Remember, you got a question? Leave it in the comments down below, as well as any special questions for the month for NaNoWriMo. I'm gonna do a National Novel Writing Month Answer-a-thon. I'm gonna answer all of the questions that I get in like an enormous, probably 1-2 part video. That's coming. This and the next video are probably the last. Like this is your last chance to submit questions for the NaNoWriMo Answer-a-thon. So make use of that. Okay, and one more thing before I go on anywhere though, allow me to remind you, as always, that the following is merely just my advice, my opinion on what works for me. Don't take it as gospel. Instead, take it as the ramblings of a silly person who forgot they were wearing a full-on black t-shirt today. Plexword gave this to me, so the white balance on this video is gonna be all borked, so you know what? Let's just move on with the questions of today's video in full. The first question goes a little bit, or rather precisely like this. What are your thoughts on rewriting? Not just small scenes, but entire chapters. I particularly feel that rewriting, which is of course the act of rewriting entire scenes from scratch, is a writer by writer thing, because I can't think of the last time I did it. I'm sure I've done it sometime, but I can't think of the last time I did it. I am very keen on revision. I do tons of revisions. I go through my stories with a magnifying glass to the point where the first draft and the final draft are almost unrecognizable. So for me, I've never really relied on rewriting. I mostly just do revision. But honestly, like, I'm not saying one is better than the other. That's not my focus here. I honestly feel this is a writer by writer thing. I feel like depending on how you tell stories and how you like to revise those stories or polish those stories, you will use different tools. Some people use rewriting. I don't do that. And if I had to, like, I guess, analyze my own feelings and explain why I don't particularly lean towards rewriting, I guess part of me feels that it would be less true to rewrite the scene again, because when I wrote it the first time, I captured all the emotions that they were there in the time of writing. I guess it's weird. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on this answer, but I don't know. I guess I feel as though I wouldn't be able to capture it again a second time. So instead, I just build on what I already got. I don't know. It's different. Ultimately, though, we gotta keep what we gotta keep in mind is this: what is the goal of the entire editing process, revision process? To make the best story that we can. So honestly, real talk, whether you're rewriting the whole thing, or scenes or chapters, or revising and editing, if we are getting to the same end goal, I actually don't think it matters. Do you know if your favorite author rewrote or revised, or a combination of both, that favorite scene from that one favorite book you love? I don't know. I don't think you can tell. And ultimately, does it matter? No. As long as we get to the same end goal, a great story, the best story that you could have possibly told, I think it doesn't really matter. Now, with that question out of the way, it's time for us to focus on the mainstay? On the main focus of today's video, the centerpiece, the name on the tin. I'm looking at my preview window. Hey there, I'm seeing you, seeing me, seeing myself. The second question goes a little bit like this. What is the most exciting way to open a novel? What should be on the very first page? It's time for Max shows how much of a radical they are. I'm gonna tell you a little secret from my own particular point of view. First pages and first chapters don't matter. I particularly feel that they don't actually matter. People put a lot of weight on first pages and first chapters of stories, and they kind of treat it as though the first chapter, the first page, is the be-all, end-all. It's like, this is the most important thing you need to do. And they offer all this advice, and for all that advice, there are exceptions to every one of those. So I particularly feel, during my wanders, during my traveling, during my personal writing experience, I found that first chapters are not really that important, and neither are first pages, because the thing that matters more than the first page is the second page. The thing that matters more than the first chapter is the second chapter, and the chapter that follows that, and the chapter that follows that, and the chapter that follows that chapter, and you move on from there. It's not just a matter of like, once you grab the reader, you got them. You gotta keep enticing the reader, keep bringing them in, and keep telling them the best story that you can, because that's the ultimate goal here. And I'm not particularly keen on a bunch of the advice that gets thrown around regarding first chapters, like, you gotta start a chapter with this, or don't start a chapter with this, except there's exceptions to basically every one of those things, so it doesn't really matter. My thing is this: your story, the story that you're writing, there is one way for that story to start. There's the way that works for that story, that is the most effective for that story, because that is the way that story has to begin. So I feel that for the story that you're writing, the most effective thing, the most exciting way to start it, is the way that that story has to begin, and you have to find that. And sometimes you don't find it in the first draft, you have to find it during revision, and that's okay. That's all part of the process, because again, what are we doing here? We're trying to make the best story that we can. There's a story that I've been saying forever and ever and ever, and that is that when I wrote Justine's Blood, one of my earlier novellas, I chopped like the first 2 pages out of the rough draft, or the first draft, because I felt that they really slowed down the opening of the story. And I kept going around in circles, because you do that thing where like, oh, I spent so much time working on writing these stories, and I spent so much time trying to make that opening perfect and exciting. But then in the revision process, I was like, what if I just cut all this off? And then I shared that with my betas, and they were like, yeah, the opening is really strong. And I'm like, they never knew. They never knew. They never realized what was, before that opening that they read. You gotta do what you gotta do for your story. There's one way for your story to begin, and it's okay if you don't find it during the first draft. It's okay. Because the first draft is not the ultimate version of your story. It's just the first draft. You'll get better. You will discover it. Give it time. Remember that there is one way for your story to begin, and you gotta find it. As it tends to be, more often than not, the solution is not outside of your story, it tends to be inside of your story. So, have faith, okay? Oh man! Really concise thoughts in this video. As for the third question of this video, it's a special one. It's one of those more life advice questions than writing advice. And the random number generator picked it for all of us, so I say we dive in. It goes a little bit like this. Hey Max, thanks for making such great advice videos. So I have noticed for a while now that I can never seem to finish any project I start. I started a book last year, then stopped writing after 5,000 words. I took a break from writing and came back with an idea I still very much love to this day. I am currently 10,000 words in and cannot bring myself to continue writing. I've just noticed that I can never fully commit myself to a project and finish it. Do you have any tips? Yes, tip number 1, start finishing projects. That's an easy one. There, done and done. No. Listen, this is one of those things where I feel a little bit powerless answering these questions because I can't give you the answer, because the answer you hold within yourself. And I'm not saying that in a sort of like classical, I guess Loovy-dooby, just Dumbo, it was inside of you all along. You honestly have to look within yourself for these answers, because, and I don't want to sound rude, and I don't want to sound mean. People, we are very good at creating obstacles for ourselves, especially obstacles and hurdles between us and the things we want to do. We are incredibly good at that. But I want to inspire you, dear writerly friend, not only you, but anyone out there who's struggling with maybe the more formal feeling of writer's block, where you feel as though you can't write, or you feel as though you are unable to commit yourself to a story. Analyze your feelings. The hardest thing to do sometimes is just to look at yourself in the mirror and just, admit, okay, yeah, I screwed up here, or yeah, I'm screwing up right now at this very moment by continuing to reinforce these negative habits, or habits that I'm not particularly happy with. Look at yourself. Be honest with yourself. You don't gotta tell the world. You can just be honest with yourself. Admit your faults. Acknowledge the things that are standing in your way, and the things that you can possibly do to get them out of there, to move forward. The reality is that these are not hidden questions. I can assure you, if you stop for 5 minutes, take a bunch of deep breaths, look at yourself in the mirror, you'll be like, yeah, I should probably take care of that exam first, and, you know what, I should send that job application already. And I was like, oh yeah, I really gotta call my parents about that one thing. Take care of that stuff. we, again, as human beings, we are amazingly good. We are adept. We are amazing at putting obstacles in our way, at allowing small little things to build up, to block our path towards the things that we want to have, the things we want to do, in this case, writing, but most generally, everything else. So, dear writerly friend out there, consider this piece of writing advice that sounds just like life advice. Look at yourself, be honest, and seek to find the solution. What am I doing wrong? What am I doing to reinforce these negative habits? And what can I do to reinforce, to enhance, to improve the things that I want to do? The positive habits, the things that make me happy, like writing, dedicating time to storytelling. What can I do to do that, to make that better? What can I do to dedicate myself to committing myself to finishing stories? I can't tell you the answer. I can tell you what worked for me, though. What worked for me the most was putting aside my fear and my doubt that maybe I wasn't good enough, and that maybe I, being a first-generation immigrant in the United States, maybe I didn't actually deserve to be a writer, because I was like, well, do I actually, am I allowed to do this? When there are people who have been living here their whole lives, you gotta put those fears aside. And when I did that, I realized, strongest than everything else, was that if I continued to allow my fears and my doubts to stop me from doing what I wanted to do, in this case, writing books, I was never going to finish anything. That wasn't an exaggeration, that wasn't an approximation, it was fact. As long as I continue, and as long as you continue to allow whatever is stopping you, those hurdles and obstacles, from achieving your goal, you are never going to achieve it. That's a period right there at the end of that sentence. It's not a tilde, it's not an ellipsis, it's certainty. You're not going to achieve it. Never. Unless you stop, look at yourself, be honest with yourself, consider the things that are stopping you and the things you can do to make it so that they're not stopping you anymore. Okay. And, oh man, I started getting really sappy there near the end. I want to thank you for watching. Thank you for spending a little bit of your day with me. I'm trying to make it funny. I'm trying to make it silly. I'm trying to lighten up the mood. But no, it's just gotten all sad now. Please be honest with yourself. Do stop reinforcing the things that make you unhappy and focus on the things that make you happy, the things that are exciting, the things that make you want to get up in the morning and get stuff done. Focus on those things. And also, I'm just tossing this out there, get rid of all relationships that don't make you happy. Just let go of people who don't make you happy, people who don't inspire you, please. It took me a long time to get that one, so that's a piece of advice for you out there. I want to thank you for watching. Thank you for spending a little bit of your day with me. If you have a question for a future video, leave it in the comments down below. I'm making a point to reply to pretty much every question that is sent my way. If you have questions for the NaNoWriMo National Novel Writing Month Answer-a-thon, leave them as well. I will answer all of those questions. No random number generator. I want to answer all of those questions in a future video. You don't have much time left, so make sure to leave those questions ASAP. With that being said, though, there is one more thing I gotta talk about. As always, if you enjoy my content, I want to make sure that I can continue on making it for the foreseeable future. Please consider pledging to my Patreon page, where you can pledge a little bit of your hard-earned money towards my cause and my videos, and in turn earn cool perks like getting to watch my videos early. But if Patreon is not your cup of tea, how about a cup of coffee? I actually have coffee today. Link to all these things in the description down below. Again, thank you for your time. Thank you for spending a little bit of your day with me. And I will see you on the next one.